And this is part 2 of our mini podcast, Growing More Wiser and Older with an LGBT community, as we continue our conversation with Paul about activism.
My generation came out of, at least, let's say, I led the baby boomers, so therefore I came of age in the late 50s, early 60s. That was a very turbulent period. And that was during the height of the civil rights movement. So as a black American, and coming out of college, I was absolutely laser sharp focused on the issues of civil rights. And so therefore the activism for me came out of that era, out of that period. As a college student, I was involved in the sit-ins and the riots, et cetera. And I was on the leading edge of that as a college student. I've sort of continued that in other ways. I went into the military, and I was in the military for 21 years. And I came out of the military, and I continued my activism working with the agency in Washington. And I was on their board of directors, but I also worked with them legislatively or lobbying by lobbying to Congress the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I've had this thing about the underdog and also social justice. So I've always been drawn into those sorts of spheres. And so that has been me. Now, I also noticed that in my generation, there was an awful lot of that as well, because we were all fighting the civil rights battle. We were all marching, et cetera. That was instilled in the black youth, and I think that level of engagement sort of continued in that generation. The generation that has followed us has not had that to deal with.
Yeah.
They are standing on our shoulders.
Right.
And so therefore they have not had anything like what we had in order to cultivate activism, political activism, civil rights activism, etc. I think they have been sort of handed that. And so therefore there's been nothing to really hone their skills. I watched them during Black Lives Matter, and I noticed that most of that leadership were of the next generation. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about kids in the 20s and 30s at this point. But I noticed that was it didn't metastasize to the entire culture. It didn't metastasize to the race. Okay. There were pockets, and I don't take anything from them. They were energetic, they were dynamic, but I didn't feel the level of activism among that generation.
To spill over to others?
To permeate the youth culture the way it did the civil rights youth culture. And I don't see quite the leadership.
Okay.
At the municipal level, any of the levels, whether it's municipal, state, federal, whatever. I don't, because we don't have that driving, tumultuous issue that we had in the civil rights movement, when all the televisions were just blaring with cross burnings and governors standing in the doorway blocking the entrance of young black kids, rioting and sit-ins and protests. That was a very tumultuous period in the 60s, and that galvanized, but it also really energized a whole generation of black men and women. But it wasn't just the youth. It was the energy. Even we found parents of youth, etc., involved. But there was also a core leadership, people who stood at the helm and guided.
Yeah.
And I don't see that.
Okay.
And I've wondered, where has it, is it there? Can it be, can we generate that? Is it, I'm not sure. But I think it'll take something really, really big. And I don't think it's happened yet.
Well, I also kind of look at how technology may be changing the scope of protesting. Mm-hmm. I'm noticing a lot of protests have actually been developed via Facebook, and they're just simply gravitate towards whether everyone says, I'm going to be here at this particular designated time. So do you see technology as also being a part of not only building our society, but also building our personal lives? Because sometimes it may be accused that the generation that seems to be growing older doesn't seem to accept technology as easy as others are. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that. And we're all sitting back watching the younger generation use social media and technology, to really organize and create huge protest actions. I mean, just the thing that comes to mind right now is the women's marches that occurred the day after the inauguration of Donald Trump. Women's marches occurred, and there were far more than just women. There were, women, men, and children marching in most of the metropolitan cities in this country, and also in the cities in Europe. And there was a massive demonstration.
Yeah.
And how did that get organized?
Right.
It got organized through social media.
Yes.
People weren't just calling one another and saying, hey, we're doing that. No, social media had a pervasive impact on, and so that's what's going to happen. I believe that's how it's going to happen from here on out.
Yes.
In terms of protest and civic action and activism.
One thing I've always wondered, when it comes down to, the idea of growing older within the community, I always thought the older you get, loneliness has got to be on top of the list. And then again, I just found that in general in just the gay world in general. A lot of people just don't want to be, whether you're younger, whether you're older, but are you finding that to be a bigger issue for yourself?
Not for myself, but I've heard a lot of my peers say that. Because if you want to have a social life, you have to work at it.
True.
If you want friends, you've got to be a friend.
Right.
And so I have a very busy social calendar. I had a friend who said, can we get together this weekend? And I went, well, no, I'm busy this weekend. Maybe next weekend. I've got a full social calendar. So I don't feel isolated. I'm very active in the community and very active in my circle of friends. One of the nice things about getting older, and I've only been here 2 years, but I've actually formed a nice circle of friends, and I spend quality time with them. And so I don't have to just go out to the clubs or the bars. Make a few phone calls and have a nice evening dinner and drinks, an evening out at the theater or something with my friends, and we have a great time, and that's quality time. And it's a good social life. I'm very gratified with it.
That's always good to hear. I'm glad. It sounded to me you're really enjoying your years, and to me, I like that. I really do like to come across people who actually are enjoying their life. As time progresses, they just go with the changes. And to me, I'm seeing that you really are enjoying those changes. Mm-hmm. Now, I think a couple of years ago, I did read an article where this particular guy, he actually wrote a book. He was in his 50s, I believe, 55, I believe. And he was talking about how confident you should be and, how great everything is to be older within the gay community. And right after the book was published, he committed suicide, and because of his loneliness. And so when I hear that, it's like, wait a minute, is this becoming more of an issue? But it doesn't seem that way. It doesn't seem that way for you.
And but you can still be 20 and lonely.
That's
so
true.
Lonely is not necessarily age specific, but a lot of times when you get older, you have health issues. The body,
Right.
we wear them out when we live. And the replacement parts aren't quite easily available. Some people do.
Right.
And thanks to modern medicine.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm certainly one of those people who lives better because of modern medicine, so I should not complain. I'm diabetic and take my pills and manage it that way. And
Nice.
Worried about other aging issues, and and I laugh and go, my back hurts and I don't dance as hard and walk as far and run as
Right.
fast as I used to. But I still take a young fella and go, there's some ways I can keep up with you, and there's some places where you need to keep up with me.
So, now I've asked, them all the same thing in terms of how they've seen their friends, progress, in terms of how they've seen them accept the process of growing older within the community, and how has it been for some of the people that you've kept close within your life? Have you seen the same also within your life in terms of people who are also coupled, maybe, or maybe people who just tend to enjoy the process as long as they have somebody? Because I'm beginning to see that the biggest fear has been loneliness. But you're with a couple for close to 39 years here, so you've never really had to worry about that. And so, but what have you seen within your close circles? Have you seen the same process of people who are also coupled, or do you see them also kind of not necessarily within a close relationship like yours?
There's been a broad spectrum of people in my life. I have a lot of different types of people in my life. Some in my professional life, I have a social network, but I also had people that were in my activist life, because I've had a very rich activist life. But most of my friends, close friends, are also coupled.
Okay.
But I still have quite a few that are not, and for varying reasons. The ones that are coupled, the handful of friends that I have, we're very like-minded. Our values are very, very similar in terms of our willingness to do the give and take that it takes to be in relationships. And we've supported one another through the years around that, because it's not always easy,
Yeah.
I don't think we're socialized as men to fit in that model of intimacy that it requires to be in a relationship or married.
Oh, wow.
And so therefore, we have to learn those skills. Those skills are not intuitive to us because of how we're socialized in our culture. So we've got to work at it much harder. And we've got to get help because it's not, it's not obvious for us. Plus, we don't have a society that supports the union of two men. Our society, our traditions, and all of the social norms tend to discourage as opposed to encourage two men or two women coupling in relationships.
And you've seen them make it last for 39 years. So I guess the process of, which I now see a different side of it, growing older or growing wiser within the community, at the same time with a couple, and then surrounding yourself with other couples. The process tends to be, would you say, probably better than some of your counterparts, some of your friends? And would you say that process has been much better for you?
Probably not necessarily better, but very different. I have very strong relationships with men who have decided to remain single for for their various reasons. And their choices have been very different. Of course, many of them are top professionals, and therefore they're married to their jobs, but they get a lot of satisfaction out of that. But they also have to find ways to interact with their peers, and also have intimate relationships as well. I think we all look for that. And I think you can have intimate relationships with people without necessarily being married to them.
Okay.
As a mental health professional, I've spent my second career really focusing on male relationships. And in Washington, D.C. for almost 20 years, that was my primary career focus.
Okay.
And I saw many different types of couples trying to come together and merge their lives in a relationship, and the types of give and take that's required to make that happen. Because we come from different walks of life, everybody has to bring their differences in to a relationship and try to make all of them work.
Right.
And that's not always easy. So I find that those who have been successful, and these are my friends, okay, have brought to their relationships a lot more wealth, okay, a lot more security.
Okay.
Than those who have not. And it's because I think it's cheaper for two to live in our society.
That may be true.
You know, it's two people supporting one household. From that standpoint, I think that once they get it right, when I say get it right, I mean get it to the place where it's working, then there's a lot that's brought. Not only the companionship, the mutual emotional and spiritual support that we give one another, but also the accumulation of wealth, the accumulation of a family.
Okay.
Many of us, I'm one of the lucky ones where my entire family, extended family, have embraced us. And then I have my own two children who have their own families.
Yes.
And their families have families, etc. So therefore, it has been a huge, for me personally, it's been a huge networking of many different families coming together to support us.
Now, making friends. I know that was something that I had a conversation the other day with Carlton, and he kind of have a different perspective on making friends. Are you at this point interested in meeting more people within the same age that you are, or you just basically say, I'm pretty good with my own friends. I don't need to extend the olive branch out to anyone. And where are you in that process, or even as a couple, just in terms of opening your life to a little bit more people, growing as you grow a little bit older?
I have many friends because I love friends. I love making friends. I enjoy people, and it has an awful lot to do with my personality. But to be honest with you, I have enough friends. You know why? Because it takes so much work to cultivate and maintain strong relationships. Mm-hmm. You've got to be willing to talk to people, get back to people, reach out to people, etc. And there's only so many hours of the day, and you're only one person. So I struggle with maintaining all the kinds of
put in a nursing home. No one wants to be bothered.
In order to
they bring in cats and dogs and pets and animals and birds, so they can identify with them.
But that's sort of part of the way I am.
People just don't have time for them. They
now
just
my husband is
don't.
less.
They just have their own issues.
He likes having a very small group of intimate friends.
In life.
And he revolves.
So basically, what you're saying is, around this time,
of course, mine is far more
because
expensive.
no one seems to care.
And
no one cares.
Sometimes I kind of overwhelm him with
and
pulling
that's why
in
I like to associate
with all of mine.
Close to my age.
It depends. It's who I am. It's what I do.
Right. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
And I love it. I enjoy it. But I have to be careful not to overextend myself to the point where
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't have enough.
You like to get sure, absolutely. And then they'll say,
friendships have to be nurtured.
I invited
have to be
couple
present
over here for dinner, and they said,
and then of course I do have some
you can't
friends
make it, but I'll tell you
that
what,
I've had for
I'm
many
going to
years.
extend an invitation.
I can go 5 years.
Something. Now, that's
without
how it's
even
supposed to
seeing.
work.
Right.
Maybe
I get it. No, you're right.
But the
Absolutely. In
moment we
order to
come back
build
together-
something.
That's how it's supposed to
Right.
work.
Right. It's supposed to be give and take. Absolutely. Give and take. Give and take on both sides.
And you know, and I'm very pleased with that. And but that's so few and far in between. Like I said, it's taken me 5 years.
Gotcha.
Meeting people on a daily basis, it shouldn't be that difficult.
But you keep doing it. You keep going. You keep extending it.
I know, but it's so hard. I mean, my God. And it can't be that age because I consider myself outgoing.
But at the same time, you haven't stopped. You haven't stopped extending that. Why?
Because of who I am. I'm a socialite. I've been a socialite all my life. And when that came to abrupt halt, that was the adjustment, the biggest adjustment. And the few friends that I have left in Seattle and in Pittsburgh, that's their issue. And what makes it worse, they're older than I am, and they are so bored and so lonely, they don't know what to do. They don't, because no one wants to be bothered with them, and they don't have all these technical skills and don't know how to, and we're not used to meeting people online.
Yeah.
And then all the people we know, and which is part of the aging process too. The people we know that are dead, they died off.
Gotcha.
Even my sister, she's 66. She said, most of my friends are dying. And I said, well, Sandra, that's part of the process of life, and it's going to get worse.
Gotcha.
And it is.
Gotcha.
So, you know, we recognize that, and so we just do the best we can.
Gotcha.
And with gay people in general, a lot of us, our gay family is more important than our biological family.
But you feel that the gay families is just the same as the heterosexual family? Or do you feel there's still a certain sort of togetherness?
Well, I feel closer to my gay family than I do my biological family.
Gotcha.
I always have, because they were more supportive.
Gotcha.
I mean, I didn't have to front with them.
Right, absolutely. No, you're right. You're right.
You didn't have to front with them.
I get it.
And they supported you.
Gotcha.
And your endeavors and whatever, but you know, and they become our heirs.
You're right.
I have a friend right now in Cleveland. He's 75 years old, and his nieces call him up as of 2 years ago, and we both know what that's about.
Money?
Well, he's 75.
Wow.
Now, I'm one of the fortunate ones because I am in a long-term relationship. I have been for many years. I don't expect that to end. So therefore, I can look forward to sharing my life with my husband for as many years as I'm here. We do a lot of travel. We spend a lot of time with our friends. We have grandchildren that come visit, etc., and we go there. So my life itself is pretty well laid out. But every other man has to take a look at what he has and decide whether or not that's enough. That out of what he has, when I'm talking about everything, he has to look around and value everything, to include, all of his friends, where he lives, his neighbors, his relationship with family, his medical support, everything, and ask himself, is this enough? It may not be everything you want, but is it enough? If it's not enough, I think you've got to go to work and try to create and make it enough. But to make peace with what is going to be enough that will sustain you and continue to enrich your life, continue to keep you going forward one day to the next.
Right.
Because ultimately, life is only what you make it.
That's it.
So it's a matter of making that choice, sitting down and really doing an inventory. Is this enough? Do I need to do more? And it's like also making plans. And something we were talking about today at home, and that is ensuring that all of your paperwork is done, that that you've established a plan for the end of your life as well. Who's going to take care of you? Is there a will? Is there durable power of attorney? Is there a medical directive? All that stuff in place so that if something happens, you can manage whatever that is.
Like, I'll be retiring in a few years and I want to get in the car and take off. I'm trying to adapt by being alone, that I'm going to have to do everything alone.
Well, are you really meant to be alone? I mean, do you really find that? Are you meeting people who also have the same feeling and you kind of...
No, I'm not.
Really?
See, I will cross this country by myself alone. I know that. I even went up to Savannah as a test. Could I do this alone? And I did. Drove, and it was that 8-hour drive. Went to Savannah, stayed the whole week to see if I could do it. Because ultimately, that's what's going to be happening. And I don't like that. I don't like the prospect for that, but that's the way it's going to be.
Right.
I can see that. So I can do it. And when I retire, I plan on getting in the car and taking off.
Wow.
And I may be gone for 2 or 3 months.
Wow, so you plan on doing a cross-country trip?
Easily.
Really?
Yeah, easily. Think nothing of it.
So wait a minute,
I just don't want to do it alone. I mean, but if I have to, because I'm going to tell you something, my situation cannot hold me back from doing what I want to do. It can't.
Okay.
You have to just go on to the last breath and just go and do what you have to do. You know, I'll give you an example. I can be very lonely. I mean, I've done everything. Going shopping, I'm in the car alone. I wake up alone. I go to work alone. I come home alone. I eat alone. I go to the stores alone. I do everything alone. That when someone gets in the car, it's like it's strange because I don't have anybody in the car. Okay. There's no one to go any place. Okay. And if I say, let's go to the bar and have a drink, it's me asking them.
Right. Well,
you see what I'm saying?
Right. I get it.
And I don't think I'm asking for too much. I really don't. And if I am, please say so. I mean, I don't think I'm asking for more than anybody else wants. It just isn't happening.
When it come down to the time that you said, man, what was that moment when you said, man, I'm getting old? What was that? What was that moment? What did it feel like? Tell me exactly what was that moment that you said, you know what? I'm getting old.
Well, I think I started talking about being an old man jokingly when I turned 30.
Oh, God.
But it wasn't about feeling old. It was about feeling mature. I think I've arrived. I don't feel like a child anymore. I don't feel naive. I don't feel inexperienced. I think I got to a point where I thought I was ready for the world. Yeah. I'm really ready to live on my own terms, and I don't have to ask anybody's permission to be me. I'm big and bad and grown and old enough to live life on my own terms, and to hell with anybody who doesn't like it.
Yeah, okay, I like that.
So that is the privilege of old age.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the point where they just go, oh, Steve, don't pay any attention to what that old man says because he'll say anything. And that is one of the privileges of old age. It is not a burden. It is a privilege.
You can say whatever the hell you want to say. And you know what? You've earned that. Actually, you've earned that right.
Yes. And so I lost my edit button, and I'm not looking for it.
So now that you lost your edit button, do you find yourself pretty much, because I think a lot of people, at least what I've come across, a lot of people who are just completely honest, but the thing about it is they don't seem to lose the people around them, because by this time a lot of people just kind of either accept it because like, well, he is older, he can say what he wants, or people just get their feelings hurt, or either just simply kind of push away. Have you noticed when you're losing the edit button, have you noticed the interaction with people have changed a little bit with you?
Not really. I found that actually it attracts people. People love honesty. People love frankness. People can smell phony. That will push people away. When you're honest and people know that what you see is what you get, that actually attracts people. It is not a problem at all. It's actually a magnet. And I find that I have more friends than ever.
So one last question. When would you actually say that you found that moment that you just felt like, damn, I'm old. What was that moment? And what do you remember? Like, what was it? What was that? Damn, I'm old. You know?
Yeah. I have those moments only when I look in the mirror. When I look in the mirror, I say to myself, damn, who's that old man staring back at me?
So what would you say to those guys that I'm pretty sure you've come across a lot of people who are your peers or neighbors or someone that says, you know what, it sucks being old. What would you really say to them?
I would say change your attitude, because you can't change getting old. That is a fact of life. So there are some things that are inevitable, and so we have to understand what it is to accept the things that we cannot change. What is that fool's prayer? I know that those in recovery say that. But a lot of that is acceptance and learning to like yourself. If you like yourself as who you are today, and you have something to look forward to tomorrow, then it'll take care of itself. It really will.